Welcome to the Fut-Afrique channel, where every single week you and I get to talk about all things rugby. Of course, as you know, this show is brought to you by BetKoza, an opportunity for you to make a little bit of money. Of course, towards the latter part of the game, we'll be giving our predictions for where you can put your money to make some cash this coming weekend. As always, I'm never alone. Today, I'm joined by Simakuhle Mzamo. My brother, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Tell me, where were you watching the game this weekend? The Springboks taking on Tonga?
I was at home. It was a late night Sunday, so caught that one at home. No chance for any outings.
No fan park vibes. No drinks with the boys.
No, the problem is when a game starts that late on a Sunday, it's going to be difficult to go home afterwards.
Oh, especially because Monday you've got work commitments, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Nah, I could completely understand. Talk to me about the game. Springboks taking on Tonga. Some would say this is somewhat of an easy one, but I would say that the Tongan lads really surprised the Springboks a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected that game to be a lot easier for the Springboks and for them to maybe rack up a bit more points than they did. I think if you had watched the game, delve into the statistics a bit, you actually see it was a lot closer on paper than what the score actually tells. It tells a different story. A lot of statistics were actually pretty much on par on both sides of the team. Things like offloads and such, and even the number of carries they made and such. So, you know, most people looking at the score wouldn't think so. But it was closer than what we might think. It's just that Springboks have a lot more pedigree and they've been there before and they know how to switch it up and also use their bench, which is quality, of course, and the standard of the gameplay never drops.
Definitely. Let's talk about where the Springboks needed to improve given the game that they played against Ireland, going into the game against Tonga, and were you happy with that improvement? For me personally, one of the things that I was a little bit concerned about was just pace, the way in which the Springboks love slowing down the game, and all of a sudden when there's pace on the ball, they tend to struggle a little bit. What was your analysis of the game against Tonga?
I think if we're going to compare it to the Ireland game, Ireland has been, at least for the last 18 months, there have been very few teams who could keep up with the pace at which they play at. I think I had read something that their average of ruck speed, you know, they average at 2-point-something seconds per ruck, which means that before guys even touch the ground, that ball's already gone. And this is on attacking and defensive rucks. So Springboks did really well against Ireland. I think that loss, a lot of people saw that in a negative light, but I think the game was a very great spectacle to watch as a rugby fan. And they didn't have much to improve on in terms of the game against Tonga, more than just refining what they already are doing. And you saw that just in the little moments where Tonga was attacking quite a bit and they were absorbing the phases. And we know that the Springboks probably have one of the best defensive statistics, and as a team, in rugby as a whole over the last few years. So when they were attacking, Tonga was attacking the whole time, and then at a key moment, there's someone there over the ball, gets that turnover penalty. And I mean, those are the things that we know that the Springboks are good at. Those are the things that they just needed to get a bit more confidence in, because it may have been a little shot against Ireland, but I don't think they had much to change or improve on, more than just refining and honing in on what they're already doing anyway.
Definitely.
They're being more clinical in essence.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
You talk about being clinical against Scotland, against Ireland. One of the big talking points was kicking off the tee. We missed 11 points in that Ireland game, which in essence could have actually led to us winning the game. The game against Tonga, we bring in a trusted fly half in the form of Pollard.
Yeah.
Your analysis of his performance, because yet again, he delivered on the day, like he usually does.
Look, Andre is a safe bet. I think any coach who has worked with him knows what they expect from Andre. Andre has a very different playing style to, for instance, a Manie Libbok. So depending on the opposition and what type of game you're wanting to play, that's when the conversation will come up, whether Andre or Manie. Depending on now what you prefer, I think that would determine who you would start on the day. But Andre, his first game back in a long time, at the top level in a Rugby World Cup, at a time where they needed to get the win and get a comprehensive win as well to ensure that they put themselves in the best possible position to get through to the quarterfinals. Andre, it was a very measured performance, and he didn't miss off the tee. It was as if he was never gone.
Yeah.
He didn't seem like he was off the pace in any way. And I was having a conversation a few weeks ago speaking about Andre Pollard before he even came back into the fold, and I was speaking about him and Sia Khaleesi's injuries, and I was saying if their injuries are being looked after by the same people that looked after Sia Khaleesi, they are fine.
Yes,
because
that's true.
when Sia came back from that ACL injury, he came back seemingly stronger, faster, fitter than he was before he played. So Andre, he's been there at the top, he's been there in clutch moments, and he's been in that spotlight since he was about 19, 20 years old. So he's always a safe bet. But again, depending on how you're wanting to play a particular game, that will then determine whether or not you'd want to start a Andre. But let's not forget that Andre can easily slot into a 12.
Most certainly.
As well.
Let's talk about Manie Libbok. My analysis of Manie Libbok leading to the World Cup was I really wanted him to wear the number 10 jersey. He did so well in the URC, and I was hoping and praying that I want him to play at fly half. Unfortunately, the game against Scotland, the game against Ireland said that let's rather put Andre Pollard into the number 10 jersey. Were you sad to see Manie Libbok rather sitting on the bench instead of starting in the number 10 jersey? Or do you prefer it that way, that he rather supports as a member of the bomb squad?
It's a fair question. I think the biggest issue with Manie Libbok and maybe the Springboks, and in my view, is that Andre Pollard over the years has been somewhat injury prone. We know what he does. He delivers every time. He's as I said, he's always a safe bet. But because of the injury, his penchant to always get injured, I think that the Springboks should have already had a succession plan in place just in case something happens. I think they did that very well across the squad as a whole, but seemingly they somehow missed it in that spot in the number 10 jersey, which you would think is probably one of the most pivotal roles on the rugby field. They tried with Damien, but I think with Damien, what they did with him is that they put him at 10, then played him at 12, then at 15, and he never got the opportunity to specialize in a particular area. So now Damien ended up having some poor performances at 10, having not played it and played 4 other positions in the last year, and then he gets judged off of that one performance, and I feel it's a little bit unfair. Manie Libbok, I think he's got, if he's somewhere around 10 or just under 10 caps, which compared to Andre Pollard, he's on about 67. He's been there, and it's so unfair sometimes, I think, to throw someone in the deep end at the highest level and not allowing him the chance to get into his own, find his rhythm, and also maybe center the game slightly in a manner where he can play the game that he wants to play it. He runs a very different line from Andre Pollard. So you want to also maybe set him up in a manner where he can thrive the best. So I was sad that they put Andre there. I do understand it. But also the nice thing is that Manie, because of his style of play, he can always be an impact player. And especially when legs are tired, he can always expose gaps. And he's got the skill set to either do a kick pass, break the line himself, step through. He's got pace. So him always being in and around that 23, I think will be fine. It will be good. And we've seen now that he's found his kicking rhythm. So even if he starts, I think that main worry around most Springbok fans' mind is the kicking element. No one has been complaining about how he's been playing, but it's just been off the tee. So I think by him settling that and settling his own nerves, he's in a better place. And I think Rassie and Jacques, Rassie and Jacques are great tacticians, and they're students of the game, so they will find a way to use that to their advantage, having Andre and Manie, in the squad, and then play what they see in front of them. Yeah.
But isn't it funny how we as South African rugby fans, we are so quick to be critical? Because given that game against Scotland, we all forgot about that amazing no-look pass that Manie actually gave to Kurtley Arendse on the wing. I mean, when you miss one kick, we are so quick to pounce on you and say, no, you're not good enough. You should be sitting on the bench.
A lot of people would say that probably the most critical fans are Springbok and All Black supporters.
Yes.
The expectation is that every game they're going to, they need to win it.
And you have to be perfect almost.
Yeah, always it has to be an almost near perfect performance, and it has to come with the win as well. It gets rubber stamped with the win. And as soon as, the Springboks could win 20 games on the trot and they lose the 21st game, the coach must go out. This player doesn't play, and you forget the previous 20 games where everyone was happy. So we are very fickle, and I think it's important to also understand from a player's perspective, it's not that you don't have the ability or the capability to do something, but sometimes it's just confidence. And just knowing that there is confidence and backing behind you, all the way from, the team management down to the players and the team around you. And those are the people that will then, in essence, allow you to grow in confidence and be able to then play in the manner that you are expected to. So, yeah, we are fickle.
Very fickle. Let's talk about the other fans that you mentioned there, All Black supporters. We have to shine a spotlight on the fact that the All Blacks haven't necessarily been the best team in the world building up to the Rugby World Cup. We saw them being shocked in that first game as well. And they slowly but surely are getting back into this tournament. Looking at the game that they played against Italy this past weekend, they beat them with a 96 to 17 point scoreline. Looking at their performance and that specific game, would you say that the All Blacks mean business and they're ready for the knockout stages, being the team that we've always known, a team that will push you to the very last minute?
The All Blacks over the last, let's say, 2 years even, in terms of the All Black standard, they've been relatively inconsistent. And a lot of things happened under the tutelage of Ian Foster, whereas, first losses to certain countries and such, and them losing the Irish series last year, getting some record scores and all of that. And there have been times where when everything was on song, then they looked extremely dangerous. We all know that they have the pedigree, they have the players, they have the experience, and they have those X-factor players as well, players who can change the game on their own. And when all of those cylinders are firing, it would be very difficult for any team to stop the All Blacks. I think going into this game, a lot of people, if you looked at the predictions, a lot of people did not expect a deficit of that much, and I think it took everyone by surprise. And Italy is no slouch. I mean, they play in the Six Nations, they play top tier teams, they are themselves a top tier team. But look, on the day, everything seemed, the bounce of the ball was right for the All Blacks. But I think the critical things were that, firstly, they maintained their discipline. I think only 7 penalties the whole game. Their lineouts were 100%. They lost only 1 scrum that game. And also their offloads. It was that All Blacks of old that we used to watch, where when someone has a ball, there's seemingly 4 or 5 All Black supporters around them, and they seem like they can throw the ball anywhere and someone will catch it from the All Blacks. We saw glimpses of that. There were some moments of brilliance, but I think as an overall performance, it was difficult for me to point out any player where I felt they didn't have a particularly good game. Everyone had a good game, and some had a way more, but a better game. But as a whole, the team looked sharp, and they looked hungry, which is obviously quite scary. And it's a very uncommon ground that we're on, where the All Blacks are going into something like a quarterfinal and they are underdogs.
Yep.
And the way that most people are seeing that things will pan out in this last round of Rugby World Cup is that basically the 4 pools will be topped by Northern Hemisphere teams, which has never happened in history. And things like, the All Blacks are going into a game where they are the underdogs and everyone's expecting them to lose. But I think off the back of that series loss against Ireland, and if they do end up playing Ireland in the quarters, I think that will probably be one of the hardest games to watch.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You spoke about the next round. Let's talk about it. And of course, this is where I'm going to ask you to take out your checkbook and make a few bets. As you know, this is the part where we love betting and predicting what will happen in the next round of matches. The Springboks can rest easy this weekend. They're enjoying a bye. But I want to talk about the Ireland and the Scotland game. Which way do you think this is going to turn? Because an easy bet would say that Ireland are world number 1. They should definitely take this game.
I think I would put my money on Ireland.
Okay.
I think they've now shown over the last 2 years or so, they've come up against quite some tough opposition that have been doing very well, and they've shown up and beat a lot of those teams. My money would go to Ireland, but in the same breath, Scotland are no slouches. I think I read a stat. I think leading up to the last round, for instance, they were leading in terms of offloads. And that kind of gives you the idea of what type of play they're implementing, a style of play, and they're not wanting the ball to go dead very often. And there are quite a few experienced guys and some guys who've been around, in and around the fold for the last maybe 2-3 years, who have now grown into their own. Duan van der Merwe on the wing, and Darcy on the other wing. They're lethal when the ball gets to them. But the issue is that I haven't seen much variation from Scotland, and it seems like if a team can fluster their let's say game tactics or gameplay, then all of a sudden it's difficult for them to adapt. And unfortunately, Ireland, from what we've seen, are one of the best at disrupting a game. And their rucks, as I mentioned earlier, on their attacking rucks and defensive rucks, they're one of the best right now in the world. And there are multiple players who can win a ruck or win the ball at crucial times when they're under a lot of pressure, and then alleviate the pressure, kick out from their territory, and then all of a sudden, all of the attacking, all the phases that were built up, all now null and void in a sense. I think Ireland, smart money would be on Ireland.
So Ireland is your bet?
Yeah, and I don't feel that Scotland has the legs to take it much further than here.
All right, fantastic. Last question, putting you on the spot. You're the coach. We replace Jacques Nienaber. You're the man for the job. The next game should potentially be France in the quarterfinals. Lukhanyo Am, he's fit, he's ready to go. Are you giving him that number 12 jersey and you're giving the 13 to Canon Moody? Or alternatively, are you giving the 13 to Lukhanyo Am, you give 12 to Andre Pollard, and you give 10 to Manie Libbok? Which way are you giving it? Putting you on the spot, let's go. You're the coach.
Look, if he's fit and available, needs to be on the field.
Okay.
I think.
Especially for a quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But honestly, at any point, I'd have on the field if he's fit and available. The work that does that most people don't see, and how he influences the players around him, especially organizing the defensive line and his defensive reads. It's something that is, it's very difficult. It's an intangible almost, and it's almost like an innate ability of his, and you want someone like that on the field. For me, I would probably have I'd have Pollard at 10. I'd have Pollard
Okay.
at 10 starting.
Okay.
I'd have throw a spanner in the works. I'd have Andre Esterhazen at 12 and I'm
Okay.
at 13. But I'd want Manie Libbok on the bench as an impact player. And then
Part of the bomb squad.
Yeah, as part of the bomb squad, I think you know his talents will be more appreciated in terms of the overall outcome of the game as an impact player of that nature. You have Pollard, who's quite steady, quite safe, who can keep the scoreboard ticking over, and then once people start getting tired, when you bring on the bomb squad and such, Manie Libbok will then definitely expose the defense from that perspective.
I hear
And
you.
then maybe another no-look pass.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Simakuhle, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, may you enjoy the rugby weekend that lies ahead.
Looking forward to it, man.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You've heard his big prediction. He says Ireland is the way to go. And then he says that Andre Esterhazen is the man for the number 12 jersey. Do you agree? Do you not agree? We would love for you to join the comment section. And also remember to like and to subscribe.